Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
How long will the row over David Cameron's tax affairs continue? Will voters appreciate the government's £9 million pro-EU leaflet dropping on their doormat, paid for by them? And which group will be named the official campaign to leave the EU? These are all questions for the week ahead. Sam, was this leaflet a mistake?
I'm not sure it particularly was. I'm not sure it'll make a terrific difference to the campaigns.
£9 million. Who's going to read it? And will it change a single mind?
I think that these people are looking to find out what the government thinks in this. It's caused an almighty row, but I suspect the reason it's caused such difficulty is simply because the government chose to tell us how much it would cost. There is a conspiracy theory here that the government put out the cost so we would all focus on that, so that the claims in the leaflet itself wouldn't come up under as much scrutiny, because what people really want to happen is for this thing to get read with its great big crest on it. Now, the key thing about the leaflet in political terms is I am yet to hear a single non-Brexit MP complain about this. If there is unhappiness about this, it seems to completely fall on sort of depend on whether or not you're for or against the European Union. Until it spills over into pro-European MPs complaining about it, I'm not so sure it's a big political issue.
But there are plenty of Leave Tory MPs, and they are up about, they're even talking about voting down some government move next week. They're so angry about it.
Well, I think their immense frustration is that they don't have £9 million to splash out on a leaflet of their own.
Well, they're not allowed to spend a total of £9 million overall in the campaign, I don't think.
Well, they can't spend that once the starting gun has been fired. So they could have spent that up until now if they'd had it. I think that privately, they're sanguine about it. This is a piece of propaganda. Most households, it will probably disappear under a pile of other rubbish that comes through the door. I think the wider issue for Brexit MPs is the extent to which the government has deployed its resources and assets in favour of the campaign, and that perceived unfairness there. And that could be very damaging for David Cameron, I think, after the referendum, if the voters decide to remain in Europe and it is seen that the government has not played fair on this. That could be quite insidious afterwards,
I think. Let's look at Mr Cameron's position this weekend and forward till after the referendum. We've got the row over the leaflet, which has annoyed his own side. His own side is deeply divided on Europe. We've had the, I don't know what adjective to use, of the budget. Omni-shambles, mega-shambles. He didn't expect to lose Mr Gove and Mr Johnson in the referendum, but he has, and now his tax affairs as well. Where does this leave the Prime Minister?
Well, he's having a bad run, isn't he? I mean, that's an understatement, isn't it? I mean, this must be, as Sam was saying earlier, probably the worst I've seen things play out for him in a long time. In fact, since I can remember, since covering politics. Where does it leave him? Look, the point about the EU referendum leaflet, the point about his tax returns, it's all making him look on the back foot. It's making him look weaker, and particularly with the EU referendum, it's another battle wound in this long-running battle between him and Eurosceptic MPs, a group of which would love to see the back of him after the referendum, whichever way it goes.
They may try to do that, win or lose.
They may try to do it, win or lose. So I think he's having a difficult run. I think it might make it more likely that he goes before 2019, as he said or 2020, that he said he would want to go. But, you know, Cameron's a fighter. He's always really good when his back is up against the wall.
Does it not just reinforce everything that's happened, though, particularly since the Panama Papers came out, reinforce the public view that that public life, particularly political life, is just full of snollygosters? Snollygoster?
What is
it's an American word, meaning people who are just in it for themselves, of German origin.
You've silenced us with that one, Andrew.
I mean, is that not a perception of politicians going back decades rather than
but
particularly
does it not
at the moment?
accumulate?
And it does, and there is a certain extent to which it accumulates. But I think what you've got here is with the Panama Papers, as Kamal was saying earlier, you've got an issue that has united the Tories largely behind David Cameron and just set up a sort of partisan division with the Labour Party shouting very loudly. We do have a group of people inside the Conservative Party that have been deeply hostile for a long time to David Cameron. They are making the most of all of the things that you've talked about.
Well, they're kicking him when he's down.
And they're kicking him when he's down. Does that mean that the mainstream of the party is going to rise up against David Cameron after June? I'm not sure, but I think the challenge is this. David Cameron has to show he needs another 3 years in power once the referendum is out of the way in order to guarantee the time and buy himself that space. It's not at all clear to me that he's going to have enough things to do in his locker for the second half of this year and 2017 and 2018 to guarantee himself that
even
space.
if he wins, he may not stay through till the spring of 2019, which is the current game plan.
And if you think about back in the election, in the run-up to 2015, when he had a group of Tory MPs who really deeply disliked him, the big thing for David Cameron was he always outpolled his party. He was always more popular as the Prime Minister and as the Tory leader than the Tories themselves. And what you're seeing at the moment in terms of his personal ratings, I think they even dropped below Jeremy Corbyn's, didn't they? Right. The bookies are putting odds on that he's gone. So basically, if the party decides that he might be becoming a liability, not an asset, then the game's on.
Now I need to move on. The Electoral Commission this week has to designate the official campaigns for Remain and for Leave. I think it's clear what the official Remain campaign will be, and it will be headed by the Prime Minister. What about Leave? Who's going to get the official Leave?
Well, I think the received wisdom at Westminster will be that it will be this organisation called Vote Leave. This is the organisation that has the backing of a string of cabinet ministers, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove. It's very much the Westminster organisation. I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as that. I think that the rival outfit, Leave.eu, has had a very, very different style of campaign. It's the grassroots campaign. I think from the point of view of the campaign, though, who gets this really matters, because both these organisations are looking at running very different style of campaigns, and it comes down to, critically, what is the role for Nigel Farage? How prominent is he going to be? Because Vote Leave do not want to put Nigel Farage centre stage, whereas the alternative campaign, the grassroots out one, Leave.eu, they're all part of the same thing, believe that Nigel Farage must be at the centre of it.
The consensus is that it's Vote Leave that will get it, isn't it?
I think
because it's more broadly based.
I think it will be Vote Leave that get it, and the Democratic Unionist Party actually endorsed that campaign as well. So they got, the point is it's cross-party, and that's really important.
So it's the Leave.eu one, the grassroots out.
It is, but I think that when you get kind of other big official parties backing it, I think it will be Vote Leave. And interestingly, I think Nigel Farage thinks it will be Vote Leave, because there were some interviews that he did at the end of March where he was talking about the two sides having to come together. He was talking about them working together to actually get the Brexit result that they want. And he'd be only flagging that if he was trying to put out an olive branch to people he might have been arguing with or conflicted with in the other campaign.
Vote Leave or Leave.eu, is that right, Isabel?
Well, grassroots out, I think, is the...
Grassroots out.
Vote Leave by a whisker, but it's not that Vote Leave haven't had their own problems. There was an attempted coup and they had quite a lot of people walk out, particularly from the Labour side earlier on. If you're sitting in Downing Street, Remain, then you want Vote Leave to win, because the prospect of a Nigel Farage, Aaron Banks style campaign topping your rivals, taking great lumps out of the Conservative Party and majoring on immigration is a much more scary prospect. It's much easier to put the Tory party back together facing an organisation run by Michael Gove and Boris Johnson than it is run by the UK.
OK, well, we'll find out this week. Now, we all know that party election broadcasts are usually unwatchable. But there's one that's come out this week from the Green Party, which is anything but unwatchable. Let's just have a little look at it.
In the nursery, Jeremy is asserting his leadership.
I found this in the toilet. Everybody's saying bad things about me and it has to stop. It wasn't me, Jeremy. Glad that's sorted.
And predictably, Jeremy and David are having another argument.
Even your mummy doesn't agree with your policies. My mum would say, put on a suit, do up a tie and sing the national anthem.
Well, it was to show the childishness of politics, and that was the green thing. It's beautifully done there. In fact, I'd like more of the kids and less of the politicians. All that was missing, I would suggest, is that a little girl with an Australian accent saying she couldn't count because she'd had a brain fade.
Oh. I suspect I did what most viewers did, which was watch the funny parts, and I didn't quite get to the end with the serious message.
Oh, no.
I think it was a brilliant advert,
brilliant.
but I'm not sure that it will have done much good specifically for the Green Party, because you never remember the serious bits.
It had 500,000 hits within within 24 hours. I mean, you've got to remember with the Green Party as well, they have not been assigned any party political broadcast space on the BBC in 2016. So they tried really hard out of election periods
I think
to
that's
get
the European elections, isn't it?
Well, they haven't got broadcast in the way that they wanted to, and they did appeal. So they've got to find a canny way of trying to reach out to the public without necessarily going via the BBC.
I mean, the Greens are often criticised for being a bit severe, a bit serious, and it shows they've got a sense of humour too.
Absolutely, and I have a vague recollection of them having done other quite successful broadcasts like this before. I knew it had gone viral when the lady that looks after my children when I'm at work sent me a copy of it. She's not party political, and it's definitely got cut through, absolutely.
The other political party that was renowned for funny PEBs was the Liberal Democrats. I'm afraid they haven't had quite such a good fate either.
May not have been terribly effective.
I loved they put out adverts for the children, and they had the Jeremy Corbyn child had to be slightly sweet-looking, skinny, and a bit scruffy.
Oh, there we go.
And the Boris boy had to be a podgy boy with a shock of blonde
Boris
hair.
is unmistakable in that. So, panel are off now to consult their dictionaries for snollygoster. That's the word of the day.
I've been getting away with it all